friends. My name is Joel, and alongside Krista Pratt, who's working the camera today. We're here with head coach Jim Rullo, who's the head basketball coach at Notre Dame. Recently, coached for 7 seasons at Malvern Prep, where he had turned the basketball program into one of the most successful programs in the area. There, they had gone 4 seasons, 20-plus wins, which was basically some pretty tough competition. And as a result of that, 6 of the players have gone on to play Division I basketball. Thanks, Coach, for joining us here today.
My pleasure.
All right, first question is, have you developed any personal mission or vision statements?
Yes, I think when you take over a program, the big thing is to try to mold and to educate the young men and give them a sense of purpose with not only the athletics, but more importantly, the academics, and trying to give them a purpose in life. And I think athletics is a direct correlation to what they'll experience down the road well after graduation.
All right, and that brings me to my next question. Have you thought about any strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, or threats to coach your team?
Absolutely. I think when you take over any program or any business, there was a class, a management class I remember taking at Drexel, where we would constantly go over what they call SWOT analysis. And you're always trying to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And just like a business, I think when taking over a team, those same principles apply. I think we always look to get better by improving upon our weaknesses, but at the same breath, we also look to improve upon our strengths by continuing to work hard and continue to work with purpose.
You say that works a lot, because a lot of my classes I felt was SWOT analysis, like management and sports and sports in the team. I mean, I've learned a lot about it, and we've had some examples of what you had to deal with it. So it's a good example.
I think there's a lot of consistencies with that, and if you can look at it from that level where you're true to yourself and you understand that, you know what, at the end of the day, I think within each organization you're going to have things that you do very well, and there's also going to be things that you don't do so well. And I think if you're able to first identify them and be honest with yourself, then you can move on and improve upon them. It goes a long way to the overall success of not only any business that you take over, but in my case, a basketball program, and holding our players accountable to a high level and a high standard.
All right, my second question is, there have been a lot of debate on whether student athletes should be paid. What do you think is your opinion on this issue?
I think based upon my experience as a student athlete at Drexel, I was fortunate enough to have a full scholarship to attend Drexel, and I think that in itself provides you a sort of payment where at the end of the day you're leaving a school with 0 student loans, and I think that in itself provides you an opportunity that the regular student doesn't have. And I think once players recognize that at that level, they should be really appreciative of what they have. Now, at the same token, I think at the schools of a higher level, like Atlantic Coast Conference or Big Ten, where they're generating millions upon millions of dollars, I think there is a need for those individuals possibly to receive a stipend, so they can kind of offset some of their daily expenses, whether it's meal money or some travel money, or just having some personal money around to kind of go to the movies or do things like that.
All right, next question. What role has social media played in generating interest in the basketball team?
I'll be honest with you, I think that's an area that I need to improve upon. I think for us at the Division III level, it's an opportunity for us to be very creative and hands-on. I think that's the way this world's going, through Facebook, through Instagram, through Twitter, and it's something that we recognize, again, getting back to the SWOT analysis piece, is an opportunity for us to kind of get our brand out there, get Newman University out there, and get our men's basketball program out there. But at the same time, I think you have to be educated on that, and you also have to understand that there's potential for that to kind of work against you if you don't handle that in the right manner.
All right, brings up the next one. Do you think that there are any downsides of using social media in sport?
I do. Like I said, I think we want to educate our players and our assistant coaches and the people affiliated within our program to what social media brings in the positive vein, but it also can quickly turn, like I said, into a negative connotation if it's not handled the right way. Making sure that there's responsibility and making sure that there's an attention to detail that the student athletes are exposed to, in the sense that there's a responsibility and there's an onus on them to make sure that they're handling themselves in a first-class manner.
All right, one of the chapters we just discussed recently was about prices. So my next question is bringing on saying if the prices were to occur that has a chance to affect the team's reputation, do you have a specific plan on how to effectively deal with it?
Yeah, I think we definitely have a plan in place. At the same time, I think each case will be on a case-by-case basis based upon the facts of that situation. But again, I think if you were able to do a lot of the work on the front end, educating your players and your staff and making sure that they understand the ramifications of what social media represents, I think you can eliminate a lot of those potential headaches down the road. And again, we're dealing with young men in the ages of 17 to 21 where you're always kind of worried about that risk. And I think the more that you keep them at the forefront and the way you continue to educate them on those situations, the better off you're going to be as a program.
All right, number 5, how do you try to establish relationships with your own players?
I think it's like anything else. To be successful in life, you have to have that relationship. And being a first-year coach here at Newman, it's going to take some time getting to know the players. I think we've done a real good job of that. But it has to go at a much, in order to get to the player, you have to be willing to extend yourself and let them know that you're in it for their well-being. You're here as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, as someone that they can look up to, in the sense that you're going to hold them accountable for not only what they do on the floor, but more importantly, what they do off the floor, meaning that they're taking care of business in the classroom, that they're being responsible socially. And I think with that, I think you start to cultivate and develop those relationships that can go a long way in making your program successful.
And do you plan to make an effort to have a relationship with their parents as well?
I do. I think when you look at the family structure in today's world, and the financial commitment and sacrifices that a lot of families are making in order to send their sons and daughters to universities like Newman, they're entrusting me with their well-being and their care, and I think they need to get to know me and see what I'm all about, because at the end of the day, I'm like a father figure to their sons here at campus. But at the same time, I don't talk basketball X's and O's with our parents, but definitely on a level where I can talk almost anything else with them, as far as them getting to know me, my family, me getting to know them and their family. I think that definitely goes a long way, and again, into running a successful program.
And that brings me to my next question. How do you show corporate social responsibility?
The way I've always looked at it, and the way it was always presented to me as a player, was to be responsible outside the classroom. To play basketball was always a privilege. If you weren't taking care of business in the classroom, if you were a problem, whether it was getting into trouble off campus, whether it was at a bar, or whether it was something that was not conducive to what the program was all about, then you were putting yourself at risk. And what I often say to my guys is, when you elect to wear the uniform and try out for the basketball team, and if you're fortunate enough to make the team, you're carrying a burden that not the general student is carrying. You have a lot more to risk than those students, because you've elected to sign up and be committed to the team. And that's what it's all about. And that's an extension of what their education here is about, understanding that, you know what, when you sign up to play for a team or an organization, there's responsibility that comes along with that.
And as a result of corporate social responsibility, does the basketball team participate in any charitable initiatives or show support for good causes?
Absolutely, and I think it's an area that we're going to continue to grow. There's an organization in Chester called Anna's Place that we bring some youth partners into the Miranda Center here, and we put on clinics. We also extended ourselves to the surrounding Delaware County area, where we had a free clinic on Martin Luther King Day. So the more that I'm here, and the more that I get to develop my networking base and to reach out into the community, I think it's important for our guys to realize that it's a vital aspect for them to give back. It's not just all about them. It's not all about them just playing basketball, but it's an opportunity for them to give back to what is given to them. I think it's a reciprocal fact that you need to understand as a young man, where people are here providing you a great facility to play in. You wear nice uniforms, you get to travel in a first-class manner, and when it's your opportunity to give back and reciprocate to a young girl or boy in a basketball clinic, it can go a long way.
All right, number 7. Many people use wins and losses to determine effectiveness as a coach. In what other ways do you think that success can be measured besides just wins and losses?
Yeah, I think in a world today where, like you said, a lot of things are measured with the bottom line. What have you done for me lately? And I think for me, the way I was brought up and the way I tried to implement my philosophy to our players is that you're here to get a degree. So we're striving to push for a 100% graduation rate. At the end of the day, when you play your 4 years here at Newman, that's great. But more importantly, you're going to walk away with a diploma and a degree, and you're going to be prepared for life. So I think that in itself is more of a responsibility, and that hopefully will kind of lend to my staple as far as my legacy, in the sense that I think that's more successful than any basketball game down there on the floor.
And it brings up to my next question. How important would you say it is to have a good relationship with other coaches in the Division III?
I think it's very important. We all have our different philosophies on how we run a program. Some folks are all wrapped up in win at all costs, and I don't subscribe to that. But I think if we're consistent in our message, where we go about our work ethic and our teams are prepared and they're playing unselfish and they play hard and they play smart and they understand what time and score situations are all about, I think that in itself will lend the respect factor for it that we'll receive from our opponents. The one greatest compliment that I received from a colleague just about 3 weeks ago was that, being a first-year head coach, the word around town was, when you play Newman, you better be ready to play, because they're going to play hard, they're well coached, they're disciplined, and you better be ready to play. So I think when you do things the right way and you have a consistent approach and you're true to your core self, I think that resonates with others, and they see that.
Apparently you guys made it the championship game last year. You just lost to Green, but you guys had a terrific season.
We did. We were 20-10, which was the first time here in about 13 years at the school, and we're doing a lot of good things. But at the same time, what comes with success is that X on your back gets a little bit bigger. So we understand that. Again, getting back to your initial point about the strengths and weaknesses, we understand that we still continue to get better from what we have currently with the returning players, and we're also out and about recruiting and trying to bring in a higher caliber player to get us over the hump, because I think we did have a successful season, but there's still room to grow and for our guys to stay hungry and to do things the right way.
Our next question: do you often find it hard to balance your family with your life coaching?
Yeah, it could be a struggle at times, but the one great thing for me is my wife, who's a school teacher, also played college basketball, and when we have 2 little girls at the ages of 7 and 5, she understands that this job is not your traditional 9-to-5 job. The hours can be a little bit crazy, but the support at home for me has been great, and my kids come to the games, and my wife is very involved in supporting me, which I'm very fortunate to have that. So I think some guys run into the problem more so than me, just because of my wife and her experiences, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been very enjoyable for my kids to come to the games and be exposed to Newman and get to know the players, and sometimes come to practice and just have fun, because it's a pretty neat experience.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories in your history of coaching, or anything in particular that sticks out in your mind?
I think, before I get into the funny situation, when you get into coaching, I think you get into it for the ability to be a mentor, the ability to be a teacher, the ability down the road to be a friend. Because the one thing, based on my playing experiences as a college player, based on my experience as an assistant coach, as a head coach at the high school level. We were fortunate to win a lot of games, but what I remember are the relationships and the friendships that were developed and cultivated over those 20 years. And I have friends that I can look back on that were met through the game of basketball and through competition, which they're friends for life, which is pretty cool, and that's pretty neat. But some funny stories. I can remember going to the NCAA tournament at Drexel my senior year, and the way it works at the NCAA tournament is we were up on the podium getting interviewed. We came out of the locker room and we went right to the podium, me and two of my teammates. Well, however, one of my teammates thought we were going out to shoot baskets to get some practice in. Well, he wasn't one of the three, and he actually made a left to go out. And he went out onto the arena floor where there were 15,000 people, and he was just shooting there by himself. So by the time we came back from the press conference in the locker room, Coach does a head count, and everyone's like, "Where's Chris?" And no one knew where Chris was. And one of the assistants ran out onto the floor and said, "Coach, Chris is out on the floor by himself in front of 15,000 people." And we had to wave him back in, but we got a real good chuckle out of that. So there's stories like that that come along that make you laugh, and when you have your reunions like you will, and we just had our 20th at Drexel, when Chris was there, we shared that story, and we had quite a few laughs at his expense. But it's about the relationships, it's about the friendships, and it's about meeting great people like you guys and helping you do your project. And I think that goes a long way with us giving back to the students here that we interact with on a daily basis.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Jim Rullo, head coach of the men's basketball.
Great job, guys.
For Christy Prada, I'm Joe.